Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of entitled people. In today's episode, my entitled brother threw a massive fit just because he was mad I bought a house. POS brother almost killed my mom. Entitled teen breaks windshield at gas station. Before we get started, make sure to subscribe so you will never miss a video. So let's get started. My entitled brother threw a massive fit just because he was mad I bought a house. Yeah, I'm aware of several similar stories involving entitled family members wanting houses they have no claim to. But I guess this shit really happens, and it's no picnic when it does. I suddenly became a homeowner some time ago because a friend of mine's grandfather was moving to Florida, and his house was ripe for picking. I knew the old man well. R.I.P. He passed a few months later from a sudden stroke. Anyway, he offered the house and property to me for $200K. I practically ran to the bank to apply for the loan. The house is a manufactured home from the 80s. But it was remodeled repeatedly by the former owner and has a separate garage building. The home and property could have gone for more, but he offered the house to me because he knew I'd take care of it. I had $30K saved that made a good down payment, and I was happy to leave my apartment. I'd wanted to eventually move out of there after what my cheating ex did anyway. But that's a story for another time. As for my brother, well, he went bonkers when he found out I bought a house. He had this repeated history of copycatting me for the past decade. But there was no way in hell he could copycat buying a house with his terrible credit and inconsistent income. And he got in an argument with me over how I was just trying to make him look bad by doing something he couldn't. No, I just wanted a damn house, and the price was too good to refuse. Then he told me I should have turned it down because he had no good reason. I could practically see his screws getting looser with every dumbass excuse he made as to why I shouldn't have done it. But I pointed out all those excuses were just because I did something he currently can't. And when I bought the house, it had nothing to do with him. I just wanted to be a homeowner for the security and extra space. I finally don't have to store my camper at my parents' house, and I have a garage that I can store stuff and tinker in. I bought a camping cot. He bought a camping cot, went to the gym. He went to the gym, bought good booze. He bought good booze, or stole it from me. I bought a new TV. B bought a new TV. I bought a truck. He bought a truck. I bought a camper. He bought a camper. I bought a used portable DVD player. He bought a used portable DVD player. I went camping in a specific place. He went camping in that specific place. I bought a house. He, 404 error. Insert tea kettle noises and Benny Hill chase. He also acted like a complete child toward me when he built his mini Ram thing. He actually confronted me and said it was cooler than my boring Tundra because it was something original. I swear, he did the dumbest mods to that vehicle, like putting twist studs in the suspension coils to raise the ride height. Well, after weeks of openly fuming about me being a homeowner, my brother suddenly acted like he had another brilliant idea. He wanted to move in with me. I laughed at him. Then he ended up demanding I rent one of my rooms to him, and for only $200 a month, utilities included, because he shouldn't have to pay any more than that since we're family. He flipped his lid when I said no. Then he got our parents involved again, only this time they actually sided with him at first, though it was mainly our mother. She and my brother showed up demanding I let my brother move in, and my brother had a shit-eating grin on his face that I could tell he was thinking he was getting his way thanks to Mommy Dearest. I said no to both their faces, and my mother cried that I was using foul language to her and being an ass when I had the space now. I called my dad, and he told my mom that he'd warned her I wouldn't do it, and to leave me the hell alone. Mom whined my brother was living out of his camper next to a shabby house he was renting space from. I said that wasn't my problem to fix, and my brother has proven countless times that he cannot be trusted. My brother was fuming to the point of being red with veins popping out. My mom tried one more time to convince me with tears, and that just made me angrier. I went on a rant that was something like this. Bro can't buy a house, so he wanted to invade mine. I refused to ever live with my brother again. I would sooner live in the woods without electricity than with him. He's intentionally irritating as all hell. And if I had him as a roommate, I just knew he'd steal my booze, take my stuff, and invade my privacy nonstop. Happening. No matter how many tears Mom tries using on me. My mom broke down and finally conceded she'd never convince me after that rant. And she had to take my brother by the hand and leave with him because he initially refused to go and kept begging her to turn back and make me let him move in. And then I yelled to him that it was a laugh that he called me a mama's boy before. Because he'd become exactly that. And this was just like the time he tried to get our mother to make me trade vehicles with him because he felt ashamed to be driving a minivan. He yanked away from Mom, then told me to get off and the horse I rode in on. I laughed and pointed out I didn't ride in on anything because I was already home. But his rattlekin horse was waiting for him in the driveway. He flipped his lid again and looked like his head was going to explode. But Mom got in front of him and told him to just go. Then he drove off in his rattlekin Silverado without her. He'd driven her there, and then I had to take her home. While taking her home, I made things very clear with my mother over why I could never trust my brother again, and his life was not my burden to bear, and then told her how little my brother was offering for rent anyway, which he'd conveniently not told her. Then I later rented that same room to one of my best friends for $600 a month, and he pays for utilities. The other 2 rooms are my bedroom and a home office. There's an extra room in the separate garage too. So my mother tried to make me let my brother live in the garage instead. There's enough room in its storage room for a bedroom. Again, I said F***k no. And that's since been turned into another friend's rented room with a bit of a plywood remodel. Yeah, I kinda rented both the spare bedroom and garage room out to friends out of spite, but I wasn't letting my brother live with me in any capacity. My brother later ended up having a complete meltdown in front of our parents over how he's the older brother. He should be the one who owns a house first. He's supposed to be successful, and I'm supposed to be the big loser in his shadow. Our dad poked him with his cane and told him that's not how life works, and they had a big argument. They told him to get out and not come back until he's cooled off and learned that he's just being a pointlessly jealous asshole. The next part 1 post. My brother did the dumbest thing of all. Edit. I came home late to over 600 comments and still more pouring in. Far too many for me to answer. So I'll clear some things up here. Yes, I am no contact with my brother. And he's NC with the rest of the family as well. I do have cameras inside and outside my home. And a dash cam too. My brother knows this and has stayed away since he left town. I'm told I'm an asshole too. Not arguing that, because it's true. I'm not exactly the nicest guy, but have someone like my brother in your life, and see how peachy you turn out. Some have mentioned to having siblings just like my brother. Sadly, I know very well people like him are increasingly common these days. My dad said a number of times that my brother probably would have ended up dead in an alley if he lived here 50 years ago with the way he behaves. As for our ages, I'm 30, and my brother is 32. I have not given my parents a spare key to my house. One is with a friend, and another is very cleverly hidden. My house is a manufactured home, but it's not in a trailer park and has been significantly modified with new siding and a new roof, and has a separate garage building. The previous owner was a former general contractor, and he loved to build and repair. And yes, I do have good insurance. I keep seeing comments about a clock radio. Pardon me for not getting the reference, but I do own a digital alarm clock that has a built-in CD player. Currently plays Tina Turner's Proud Mary to wake me up. My brother and I were raised pretty evenly. He was always a jerk, but went full asshole after moving out. But our mother didn't favor him. She chewed him out plenty, and she didn't normally side with his stupidity. She just wanted him to live in a better place than in a camper next to a house filled with potheads. Addition, my brother willingly moved into that camper. He was renting half a room in that house of potheads, then convinced the landlord to let him live in his camper on the property for the same price instead. And he bragged about his camper a lot, which he has a full gaming center in, complete with PlayStation. He only wanted to invade my house to piss me off and make his cost of living even lower. He also doesn't like camping nearly as much as me. He mainly liked just pissing me off by following me. He loved to make me miserable. In fact, he felt entitled to make me miserable. That's the kind of person he is. Do I have a restraining order against my brother? Not really. Just didn't bother. Because even if I did, it'd only be for like a year. And my brother wouldn't let something like that stop him if he was truly determined anyway. He has what my family call golden child syndrome. He feels like the most important person in the family, and we should all bow down to him. This, and by the sounds of it, your mother is a big reason why. Damn it, you and your cliffhangers. I get a clock radio he cannot afford. Great success. He was going to try and take over your house. No way was he going to submit to you as landlord. P.O.S. brother almost killed my mom. Trigger warning, mention suicide attempt. My 39F, older brother, 42M, has always felt the world owes him something. I'll keep this as short as I can, but it's a doozy. We'll call my brother Twat for our story. Twat started selling drugs in middle school. By age 18, he got caught with 50+ G-meth, 1 PD weed, 100+ painkillers, and a gun. This was before the recession in 2008, and my parents were doing well, although my mom, an RN, had recently undergone major surgeries on her neck and back, forcing to retire 1 year before she could collect pension. Twat fully expected and got my parents to pay for the best attorney around. The retainer fee alone was $20,000. Twat by this time was 19 years old and was sentenced to 3 MTHS in boot camp that was usually only for people under 17 despite facing 50 years in prison. It turned out that ATF worked the judge to give him a light sentence so they could use him as bait to get to the rest of his gang. When he was released, I told my parents he has a major meth/heroin addiction and needs help. They refused to see that their only son could do this. Twat started using and selling hard drugs, meth, coke, heroin, the works, literally the day after his release. I saw it with my own eyes. The feds built a case on him for 2 years before surrounding my parents' house and arresting Twat again, this time for trafficking meth, heroin, weed, conspiracy on all of these counts, and felony gun possession. We lived on the border of 2 states, which is why it was a federal crime and was considered trafficking. They arrested 4 other members of his gang at the same time, all in collecting over $2 million, 150+ firearms, nearly 1,000 Gs of meth, about the same in heroin, and a lot of weed. I don't know how much. Twat was facing 90+ years. This was after the recession. Dad lost his business in 2009 and mom was not working. They ended up filing for bankruptcy that year. So, to bond Twat out, they put their home up as collateral. Do you think Twat intended to show up for court?
No.
Twat determined he was going to flee to Mexico and let my parents lose their home and be out on the street. While he was out, he still sold drugs and would borrow money from my parents using any excuse under the sun. One of the times, he borrowed $500 my mom pulled out of her retirement. Twat showed up at their house showing off his shiny new drone. He had 3. My mom mentioned the $500 and Twat lost his shit, yelling that she was a selfish B***TCH and that he doesn't have a mother. That if she loved him, she would find the money to pay for an attorney for him. My parents couldn't afford one this time around and he had a public defender. My mother has broken her back for us kids over the years and would have gladly served Twat's sentence for him if they'd let her. His words cut through he so deeply, she still bears the scars. I had moved to a different city than my parents by this time. About a week before his court date, Twat had the audacity to show up at my house and demand I let him stay there. It was one of the hardest decisions of my life because at the time I loved my brother, but I called the feds and told them where he was. At the end of the day, I couldn't stand the thought of my blameless parents being homeless due to Twat's actions. I started hating him for the position he put me in and the decision he forced on me to betray either him or my parents. Edited TO include this paragraph. Twat made sure to tell everyone in town and all of his friends that I snitched on him. I got threatening calls constantly for months and even a few death threats. I think my saving grace was that I lived 2.5 hours away from our hometown. Twat ends up being sentenced to 20 years. The only time he would call my parents was when he needed money. A couple of years in, he called my mom on Mother's Day last May. I happened to be at their house and heard her crying and saying she wished she could help, but they just don't have the money. I can hear Twat through the phone yelling at her to shut up. He needs the goddamned money. She's a piece of shit and he hopes she dies. He hung up on her before I could snatch the phone away. That night my mother took 60 Valiums, her whole bottle. I woke up at about 4 a.m. to find her unresponsive on the kitchen floor. Paramedics said if it were only even 5 minutes longer, we would have lost her. She ended up with temporary brain damage and had to stay in a psych ward for 5 days for evaluation. She refuses to blame Twat for what she did, even though it never would have happened if it weren't for his words. At this point, Dad and I completely cut Twat off. I fucking hate the thought of him. He refuses to acknowledge what happened and hasn't even apologized for the things he said to her. In fact, he's cussed her out at least one other time that I know of since this happened. My mom is the only one who will still speak with him. Twat always goes on pity-me trips because Dad and I won't have anything to do with him, so Mom tries to get us to talk to him. I told her that I will never forgive him for what he did and that I have nothing to say to him. Am I wrong for this? I hate my mom has to listen to his guilt trips, but I can't stand the thought of having a conversation with him, much less a civil one. If you're still with me, thank you for listening. This shit weighs so heavy on me, and it feels a bit better to share my thoughts. I appreciate any feedback on if I should speak to Twat for my mom's sake. I am so sorry your family has had to deal with all of this. I hope your mom can get the help she needs, but don't expect her to change. She won't. Don't hold it against her, though. It comes from what she considers love. I wish you guys all the best, and Twat can go jump off a cliff. Thank you for the kind words. It was hard, but I've accepted that Mom won't change. She loves her son and will do anything for him. Entitled Teen Breaks Windshield at Gas Station. At the moments, at my job, I am a gas station attendant. It's a pretty simple job as it is. All you do is watch the cars and help people with their transactions and card issues. This happened yesterday at the gas station. My manager and I were just standing around chatting when a customer pulls up behind us to pump their gas. They are in your standard soccer mom SUV. In the passenger seat was a teenage girl, probably no older than 14. She had her seat reclined all the way and her feet on the dashboard. I did not witness the incident directly, but I did see the results. As my manager and I were chatting, we heard a large thud from behind us. We both turned and noticed in the upper corner of the windshield there was a large spidered crack. At the same time, when I thought, oh shit, someone's in trouble, the mother burst out screaming. Why the hell did you do that for? Not sure exactly what was said or whatever, but I believe the mother said something and the teen did not like, and basically threw a temper tantrum and stomped on the windshield. She spent the next at least 5 to 10 minutes raging at her daughter. When I had to go into the hut for something, the teen was bawling her eyes out. The mother was on the phone, who I presume was the father, telling them what had just happened. Probably another good reason not to have your feet on the dashboard. I did the same thing when I was 7 and put in the car as punishment at a cookout. Dumb me didn't realize the damage that could occur, but my parents were livid. Lesson learned all around. My son did the same thing as we were driving. He just straightened his legs a little and the windshield cracked. Lesson learned. I told him not to do it again.
No screaming.
He didn't do it on purpose. I didn't tell him to put his feet down. If you're old enough to ride in the front, you're old enough not to throw a tantrum. Time for a reset on that child. Anyone who rides with their feet on the dash should be moved to the back seat for their safety. An accident that causes the airbags to deploy would seriously injure her. When I was 4, I bit a hole in the soft vinyl and foam dashboard of my father's VW Carmen Ghia. I didn't mean to. I was riding with my mother. This was before laws about children riding in the back and seatbelts, and leaning forward with my top teeth on the dashboard. Yes, I know this is dumb and awkward, but I was 4, and we hit a bump and it just happened. I don't think my mother told my father, because I never got in trouble for it. But many years later I asked her if she remembered the time I bit a hole in the Carmangia, and she said yes. If any of her children were going to bite a hole in the car, it would be me. I've seen X-rays of people who'd been in accidents with their feet on the dash. It's horrible. It may or may not have been on purpose, but it's one of those moments that make moms snap, especially if we're already stressed. If you made it to the end of the video, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share, and we will see you in the next video.